When failure became fortune. Daniel Okoro was born in a small town where dreams rarely survived. His father, a quiet man with calloused hands, stitched clothes in a roadside shop, while his mother sold vegetables in the bustling market. Their home was a cramped two-room building with a leaking roof, yet it carried the laughter of siblings and the faint smell of fresh tomatoes brought in from the farm. Even as a boy, Daniel was different. He refused to believe that poverty was permanent. While his friends chased one another in dusty football fields, he sat under trees with borrowed books, his eyes bright with determination. His teachers often said, "This boy carries ambition bigger than his pocket." They were right. By sheer determination, Daniel won a scholarship to study business at university. For his parents, it was nothing short of a miracle. They had imagined their son becoming a tailor like his father or a trader like his mother, but now he was walking through the gates of higher learning, carrying their hopes on his shoulders. At university, Daniel became obsessed with entrepreneurship. He attended lectures faithfully but spent his evenings reading everything he could find on business strategy, success stories, and financial growth. By the time he graduated, he had crafted his own plan, a logistics company that would move goods faster and more reliably than anyone else in the region. With borrowed money from relatives, church members, and friends, Daniel launched his dream. At first, it worked beautifully. Contracts poured in. His trucks rumbled along highways, day and night. Customers trusted him, and his phone rang constantly with new opportunities. He became the pride of his community, the young man who had escaped poverty through courage and brilliance. Success wrapped around him like a golden robe. He rented a fine apartment, bought a car, and repaid his parents by providing for them generously. In the market, people pointed him out with admiration. Elders shook their heads with approval and whispered, "This is what success looks like." But success is a fragile crown, easily stolen by the storms of life. The first cracks appeared when the economy wavered. Prices soared, and contracts slowed. Customers delayed payments. Daniel tried to keep afloat, but then came the accident. One of his trucks overturned on the highway, destroying goods worth millions. The losses were catastrophic. Insurance refused to cover the damage due to fine print technicalities. Lawsuits followed, creditors circled, and employees began to leave. In only a few months, Daniel's empire crumbled. The debts he had once managed with confidence now drowned him. Friends who had once cheered him came demanding repayment. Some turned bitter, accusing him of deceit. His home was repossessed, his car taken, his business dissolved. He returned to his mother's small house with nothing but shame clinging to him like a shadow. In the market, people no longer spoke with admiration. They whispered cruelly instead. "There goes the man who thought he could fly too high. See him now, back where he started." Nights were unbearable. Daniel lay on a worn-out mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, his chest heavy with regret. He replayed every decision in his mind, asking himself if he had been foolish to dream so boldly. Poverty seemed permanent again, a prison he could not escape. Yet failure has a way of teaching lessons that success never can. One hot afternoon, Daniel sat beneath the shade of a mango tree in his mother's compound. He reached for an old notebook he had once filled with ideas. Flipping through its worn pages, he paused on a simple note written years earlier. "Start small. Grow steady. Depend on creativity, not just money." The words pierced him like lightning. For the first time since his collapse, he saw his mistake clearly. He had built too fast, too wide, too dependent on borrowed resources. He had chased size instead of sustainability. His failure, painful as it was, had carved wisdom into his bones. The next day, with the little money he had left, barely enough for a week's meals, Daniel bought cartons of packaged water. Carrying them on his back, he walked from shop to shop, sweating under the sun, begging for customers. People laughed when they saw him. Some mocked him openly. "Look at the great businessman, reduced to a hawker." But Daniel swallowed his pride. He kept walking, kept selling, kept saving. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Slowly, his persistence bore fruit. He bought more cartons, then a small kiosk, then a rusty delivery van. This time, he reinvested every coin, avoided debt, and focused on steady, reliable clients, schools, small offices, neighborhood shops. He grew carefully, brick by brick. 10 years after his great fall, Daniel rose again. His water distribution company had become one of the largest in the region. He employed dozens of workers, many from his own neighborhood. He rebuilt his parents' home, transforming it into a sturdy house filled with pride. He drove past the same market where people once mocked him, and now they looked at him with awe. When journalists asked him about his success, he smiled, his voice calm and steady. "I am not successful because I never failed," he said. "I am successful because I failed, and refused to stay down." Lessons from Daniel's story. Failure is not final. It is the teacher that success cannot be. Start small, grow steady, and never let shame silence your dreams. Because sometimes, the ruins of failure are the very foundation on which fortune is built.